topics formula. There are certain, what was I say? There are certain formulas which we know in real life. What is a formula? Can people tell me what a formula is? Or a formula they know of? Come on, you all know a formula. Index laws have formulas. Yes, they're like quite intense formulas. Yes, any others? Just simple ones. Any ideas? What about like pi r squared? Everyone heard of pi r squared? Yeah, area of a circle. Any others you can think of? Pythagoras, good. So Pythagoras is a topic we're going to use later. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, any others? E equals mc squared. Anything else? Good, y equals mx plus c. Now that one we need to know because it is 4 weeks of our course at the end of the term. It is also the one thing which is in every single topic in year 12. So I'm really going to focus in on linear, that is a linear straight line, okay, which is y equals mx plus c. I'm really going to focus in on that formula later on because all the topics in year 12 have some sort of relation back to linear relationships, okay? However, we don't do quadratics, we don't do exponentials, we don't do any of them, just straight lines, okay? So formulas, what is a formula then? So if we look at those examples, what was common between them? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Y equals mx plus c. What's common? There's letters and there's a equal sign, okay? So it's an equation, okay? So a formula, again, if I write it, you write it. It's an equation, so we have an equal sign in it, okay? A formula is an equation which has letters. What's another word for the letters? The official, there's a couple official terms. Coefficient. Coefficient is actually the number before the letter, but that's a really good maths word, so I'm glad you guys brought that up. What's another word for the letters, like just an X or a Y or... There's a one which starts with P, pronumeral, and there's another word letter. There's another one for it which starts with a V. No. Variable. That's okay. Okay, so from now on, I'm probably not going to use the word letters so much. More likely to use the word pronumeral or variable. So which has letters which represent certain numerical, what's a numerical mean? Numbers, okay? Values. Now, I will constantly ask you to define words we're using because there's no use in me writing a word if you don't understand it. And if you don't still understand it, ask me. Oh, sorry. This is my learning curve for my computer. Come on. Oh, that didn't work. All right, let's try that again. Didn't like that at all, did it? All right, so a formula is an equation which has letters, pronumerals or variables, which represent certain numerical values. All right, cool. I've got a new computer, so if you talk to anyone in my year 11 or 12 classes from last year, you'll hear that I whinged about my computer constantly because it was too heavy and I couldn't carry it around, and because it was like massive and I felt like I was going to fall, and then I was stuck tethered to the, oh, I did it again. And I was stuck tethered to the screen. I'll fix it. It's all good. And I got really annoyed, so I got a new computer, which I'm excited about, but now I'm going to get annoyed by things not working. It will work though. I'll get it to work, I promise. Somehow. All right, so what does substitution mean then? Substitution. It's something we've actually done without the word substitution since like year 5 and year 6. Yep. Good. So it's where we get told what the value of one of the pronumerals means, and so that we can actually substitute in a value for that. Okay, just give me a second. Hello. It just broke down on me. It's okay. Thanks so much fun with that whiteboard this morning. Had to get. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'm just not going to spin my screen around, and I think that will be what happens. So it's all good. All right.
Teaching using your device.
Yeah, and I'm recording.
Right. Can you do me a favour?
Yes.
When you have finished, sorry to interrupt you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you have a look at what I sent you and see that I'm not in the middle between you and
Yeah, okay.
Linda?
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying? That
Yeah, wasn't there.
was missing?
Yeah.
Just check that it's not.
Okay.
That's what I said to Jen.
Okay. No worries. All right, so substitution. Is when we get given, and you'll note the word given gets pushed around a lot, okay? We get given the value of one of the pronumerals. It could be more than one. And substitute it into the equation. So again, I told you that's pretty much our little notes, our words. I don't like to write too many words. I'm definitely not an English teacher. But then we sort of do practice questions. So we always do worked examples, and then you guys practice as well. Just tell me, just which bit. So the value of one of the pronumerals and substitute it into the equation. As I said, just ask me. It's all good. Nicely. Nicely is a good word. Sorry, I'm just going to try. It's all good. Yeah, I'll just keep them and you can grab them back. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and do some practice. So you don't need to write the title or anything like that. We're just going to go, can you just write the question given, has everyone finished writing the notes? If you haven't, let me know. Also just leave a gap and you can go to the one note as well. All right, so we're going to start with this equation here. Given y equals 3x take 2, evaluate y when. Can you just write that first line? And a equals x equals negative 2. And then we're going to try and do it together. Stack one, right? All right, so first things first, there's certain things which we're expecting you to have knowledge of for this course, okay? There are some algebra skills you need to have knowledge of. We will actually review how to solve equations and things like that, but in terms of what this means, I need you to know certain maths concepts for this course. So that means between the 3 and the x, there's nothing written there, but what's actually there? Times, when we substitute there is negative 2, but if there's no symbol between a number and a pronumeral, no, that's fine. then it means there's a times. You're expected to know that. The other thing you're expected to know is your integers. So you need to know that if it's timesing by a negative number, a positive times by a negative number, it's going to end up being a negative number. If it's two negatives multiplying by each other, it's going to be a positive number. If you're having trouble with integers, and you'll learn if you're having trouble for the next three questions, you need to make sure you're really working on it. And you also need to realize that that is something which you're going to have to work on really, really hard because it's an expected knowledge prior to this course, right? So if you're having trouble with if you had really a lot of trouble with your 9, year 10 maths, maybe this course might not be for you. So you need to be thinking about that. If you just got a B or a C or something, that's fine. I'm saying if you actually didn't pass, okay? We will get you through otherwise. So given y equals 3x, take 2, evaluate y when x equals -2. So all this is saying is I'm telling you that for this equation, x equals -2. So instead of x in the equation, what are we going to write? -2. Now, anytime you substitute, I would say the best way to do it is to put it into brackets. And that way you're not going to get confused when it's a -2, that it's take 2. You're going to know that it's -2. And so you'd write y, actually we're going to write it, we're going to do the right mathematics. Sorry. We're going to write underneath, put the equal sign in, so y equals 3 times by, so instead of the x, -2, take 2. Now, when I substitute, I always try and show you with colours so you can kind of see where I've changed as well, okay? So instead of x, we're putting in -2. So that means 3 times -2, take 2. So what's 3 times -2? -6, take 2. Okay, so that -6 is the first thing of saying, did I understand integers? Am I okay with that? Okay. The next one is -6, take 2. -8, okay? Be aware of, a lot of people would go the other way. Be aware it's like saying, I owe you $6. I borrow $2 more. So now I owe you $8. We're going backwards, going back left on the number line. So just if you had trouble with those two skills, you need to work on your integers, okay? Everyone understand the substitution part though, because that's the main part. Yes? All right, so can you guys try and do the same equation, but this time instead of -2, x equals 0. Can you give it a shot, please? Now, one big thing is we want to work down the page where possible. So if you've written, and there's quite a few of it, it's fine. If you've kind of written your question here, then your question here, then your question here, what I'd like you to do is do your question here, then question underneath, and then when you get to the bottom page, you can do like a column and then keep going down, but don't go across because otherwise you're going to end up, we always want to be working down the page as best we can, okay? So x equals 0, I saw most people who I looked at did pretty well. So we're again saying y equals 3, but this time 0. Times 0, take 2. Remembering that 3 times 0 is 0, so y equals -2. Perfect. As I said, I told you that we would ease into this maths, okay? Do not expect that all of this course is going to be at this level, all right? But I will always try and teach you from scratch to make sure people who have got gaps from previous years can at least catch up, right? Everyone good with B? C? 2/3. Now, one thing, actually, sorry, you got the equation written down anyway. One thing, in APS, especially the exam the year before last, so the first APS exam for year 12, there were heaps of fractions. And fractions isn't in the course, it's one of those expected knowledge things, okay? So we need to make sure, they weren't really hard fractions. There was an eighth, so 1/8, there was a quarter, there was half, and there's thirds, really. They're the main fractions we need to do, but half of the course seemed to have trouble with finding a half of a half. So a half times a half, But if you think about it saying half of a half, like draw a half, what's half of it? A quarter, okay? But people get really confused when they suddenly see a fraction. They go, whoa, hang on, that's too hard. And it's actually not that hard, okay? So if we substitute it in here and we go y equals 3 times 2/3, take 2. Now, if you think about this in terms of just base times means of, okay? 2/3 of 3. If you've got 3 and you want 2/3 of it, how much is it? It's just 2, okay? So usually, if you actually think about timesing, 3 over 1 times 2 over 3, okay? If we look at that, if the numerator on the top is the same as the denominator on the bottom, they actually cancel each other out. And so we're just actually saying we can cancel this and become 1. And we end up with 2 over 1, so it's just 2. Okay, the other way is you could write 6 over 3 and get 2 as well. So we end up with 2 take 2, which is y equals 0. Is everyone feeling okay with that? Now, we haven't got as far as I hoped, but neither did the last lesson either. And we had to get all the bits and pieces and that talking done. I won't talk for half an hour at the start of every lesson, I promise. So what I'm going to do is I'm setting you literally 5 minutes of homework. There is that expectation that every night you're going to do maths homework. I'm only giving you 5 minutes. I did tell you next time will be 15 to 20, okay? So it is in your book. I'll always write your homework on the OneNote. Soon I will put it in sector, but at the moment I haven't been able to split all the maths classes on sector, so I can't put the homework in because otherwise the other classes will get all the same. So exercise 1A, I think it's page 7 from memory, questions 1 to 5. 5 minutes. If you have trouble, send me an email so I know. But we're going to continue with this same lesson next lesson to keep going with some of the harder stuff and how to use your calculator. Okay? Yes. All right, I'll go and photocopy your page for you. Anyone else not got a book? 2? All right.